Welcome back to the Football Terrace. Hit like button, subscribe. If you haven't turned on that bell notification button yet, why? Get that done. Just being a subscriber doesn't mean you get told when we're live. So get all that done. I read a really interesting article today, which I feel like this subject matter has kind of been dropped in the last few months with the Euros, Copa America, the transfer window, and a lot of fans taking downtime during the summer. Of course, holidays with family, focusing on other things just for football to come back. But there is an ongoing beef. There is an ongoing war between, some people refer to them as the red cartel. I don't necessarily agree with that because I think smaller, less financially powerful clubs also fit into this category. But this article was talking about Arsenal and the transfer dealings, but some of the problems that they have had in the transfer window. And look, Newcastle fans and City fans are probably not going to like this article, or they're going to think Arsenal are causing them a problem. But I've got a big take on this, and I want you to stick around for it. So hit the like and share buttons and get ready. This segment of the article states that Arsenal have shown they are willing to spend big. But as with Liverpool and Virgil van Dijk before them, it's only if the player is exactly right. Declan Rice was seen in that mould, and so was Isak. But Newcastle are determined to keep the forward this summer. So it's obviously talking about Arsenal wanting Alexander Isak. And this explains maybe why Arsenal have been, for some people, standing on ceremony when it comes to bringing in another striker. Isak was perfect. But if they can't get him, who else are you going to spend the money on? They have to be somewhat close to that level. It goes on to say that there's been an ongoing tension between the St. James's Park hierarchy and Arsenal, due to the latter, being Arsenal, in case you don't know what that means, attitude to state-owned clubs. Some executives at Arsenal have been at the forefront of moves within the Premier League to restrict the potential financial power of the Abu Dhabi-owned Manchester City and the Saudi Arabian-owned Newcastle. Now, I think we all sort of knew that Arsenal were involved in this if it hadn't been printed elsewhere. But this was very direct. Now, this story was about transfers, but it was that paragraph that stood out to me because we have seen in recent weeks Manchester City sue the Premier League, but it's for rules that the likes of Arsenal, and I assume Man United are involved in this to a certain degree, Liverpool are involved in this, and multiple other clubs. Because remember, you need like 16 club voting majority. In fact, what actually is that? I'm going to check that now while I'm recording this. Premier League voting majority. I swear it's 16. It could be 14. You remember Man City when they called it the tyranny of the majority? I want to make sure I go and find this comment here. I think it's 16, but it could be 14. 14. I was correct in the first place. Yeah, 14 clubs vote. As long as you get 14 clubs vote, then it goes through. And you've had Man City, and it appears like Newcastle moving along those lines of, we don't like the tyranny of the majority. We don't like that 14 clubs get to vote for how we get to operate. And I believe it's more than 14 clubs have voted to restrict the potential financial power of Man City and Newcastle, who themselves are pushing to have either the level of losses increased or no kind of governance on the volume of sponsorship deals, the connected parties, and essentially the amount of money that can be invested into a Premier League club. We don't know the outcome of that court case as of right now, but it has been pushed out that Arsenal are at the forefront of that, which would explain massively why Arsenal were unable to... They didn't even go near Bruno Guimaraes, and why nothing is really pushed on when it comes to Alexander Isak, because their club boards are at war. He says it has led to a colder relationship at boardroom level. which was all the more timely given that Arsenal this summer would have been interested in signing two players, of course, Bruno Maris and Isak. They have two that Newcastle are naturally intent on keeping. So, of course, there's a football element to keeping these individual players. Of course there is. It goes, as it was reported by The Independent in late May, Arsenal's top target was Isak, but they did not want to get into a long-running saga and were prepared to swiftly move on if they didn't have an early chance of signing him. But how much more of this are we now going to see in the Premier League with these ongoing wars? But it's really interesting because I've seen a lot of people today sharing these comments and Newcastle fans being fuming and City fans fuming. Forget the sort of the crazy nonsense from people, the nasty things that people say. Like, put that all aside because none of us really give that any time or attention in reality when it comes to having these conversations. I remember once doing a show with Lee Gunner and he said something which I 50% agreed with and 50% disagreed with. I think he said something along the lines about City, that if you're not cheating, you're not trying. Now, I don't believe in that notion because I don't believe in cheating to try and gain success. It would feel empty to me as someone that used to compete. But he followed it up by essentially saying that he doesn't think these... He likes the idea, essentially, and I'm paraphrasing here, that Man City are doing whatever it takes to be able to win. Now, I understand that all of our owners are billionaires. They could all afford to pump in the £100 million every 3 years that owners are allowed to give towards buying players. Every single billionaire owner can afford to do that. So, of course, they should be all held to that standard. But when it comes to the financial might of, forget for a moment, City's owners, because Man United's now collective net worth is bigger. But they do have state ownership elements where you would expect there is more money. But Newcastle's owners are worth more than the rest of the Premier League's owners put together. And in that same breath, that people like Lee Gunner, and I agree with the sentiment 100%, that they are just trying to do what's best by their club. Said at the beginning, I've got a big take. But so are Arsenal. And so are Man United, and so are Brighton, and so are West Ham. They are voting for what they believe is best for their club. Because irrespective of how ambitious the Cronkies become, no matter how much Ineos say they're going to spend, Saudi Arabia can spend 100 times more. And the problem is, it's a bit like Pandora's box. Once you open it and let this out, there may be no putting it away. So as much as I understand that Newcastle fans will see this and be fuming, I get why. I respect why. I'm not disagreeing with how you feel. I also get why Arsenal would sit there and say, do you know what? If these rules come through that don't govern the sponsorships, that uncap what people can spend, there are certain owners that are just, even if we the Cronkies, I'm talking like I'm a Cronky here, decide we are going to spend our family fortune. And by the way, a lot of their money isn't even cash. The thing with a lot of the Middle East owners, in respect to them, a lot of their wealth is actual cash money. A lot of the American and Western billionaires, it's tied up in the stock of their companies. They can't actually turn that all into cash particularly quickly. But let's say they could. And they were, we're going to plow our life fortune, our family fortune, into making sure Arsenal can compete. Within 2 summers of unlimited spending, in theory, the Saudi owners and the Abu Dhabi owners would bankrupt the Cronkies. They are that much richer. So this idea that, well, we shouldn't be stopping owners from doing what's best for the football clubs they own, I think you can apply the same logic in the other direction. So I do get what Arsenal and I do get what everybody else are doing. I actually believe there should be caps because I think we can see a lot of clubs go out of business if there's not. But I just thought it was a really interesting story. I don't think that the crux of this story was about the complications and the arguments, but it's what stood out to me. I want to get your take on it. Is it wrong what Arsenal were doing and potentially Man United and these other clubs? Or is it absolutely right for the level of competition to remain more balanced, to give smaller clubs an opportunity to catch the wealthier clubs? What do you think? Or is this sour grapes? Is this the red cartel, as Newcastle fans call it, trying to dictate and control English football? Give me your thoughts, give me your feelings below, and we'll speak to you all again soon. Peace.